Okay, I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting of Thursday, December 3rd. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, this evening, first item, well, we got a 710 class tax classification, so we'll wait another few minutes for that. Moving on to approved minutes of October 21st, 2015.
So moved.
Move second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved minutes of November 4th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Except for review, minutes of November 19th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Move seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Review meeting and important date scheduled for first half of calendar year 2016. So, we go past that, all this tax classification stuff, and we're on to Board of Selectmen meetings. Is there any questions?
Motion to approve with pending changes.
Yeah. All right, second that.
Okay, moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Act on license, act on license renewal for Rick's Unlimited Auctions.
Motion approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Communication reports from boards, commissions, and town officials. Act on a request from David Moore to increase ceiling fees. So we have a request in here from David Moore regarding the ceiling fees. Any discussion on that?
I think he did a good job giving us some comparisons of other towns, and as you can see, we're a little bit low, so I'll make a motion to be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
I'm sure that was the office that did that work here.
The one that you have here,
That
yes,
was
but
very
he
good.
provided a lot of the information.
Right, thank you.
Good. There is no correspondence from the public to determine course of action. Public comment period. Anybody have a public comment they'd like to make?
Nancy, I'd just like to, on behalf of all the residents, reach out to you and say we're sorry about passing your dad. I've been a long-time resident, and I grew up in town and know your family's been around forever, and on behalf of all the residents in town, we wish your family some comfort during a time of grieving.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that too, Nancy.
you.
You know, it's a tough time for you, and our prayers are with you. I know that he was very, very involved in your life, and I feel it's a great loss. And it's a great loss of the town too. He's been around this town for years. I probably get criticized for this, but I had that flag lowered half-mast.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess now it's
I
been lowered
appreciate
for,
that. Oh, for
for
the
the-
San
for the
Bernardino.
San Bernardino,
Yes, for the families in San
but it came down
Bernardino.
first for your father.
That's nice, thank you. I appreciate that, both the selectmen, and I appreciate your sympathy. It's a great town. You love this town just like all of us do, so it's a great town. I thank you, I appreciate that. Town administrator's report?
Sure. Thank you. First on the report is in reference to FY17 budget message. It's a little scary. We're in calendar year 2015, and we're already talking FY17, but it is not a mistake. In a little 6 months, we will be at town meeting setting our new budget for the following fiscal year. Normally, we would send out a budget message. I would like to, that it's to either level service or level fund the budgets. Based on our current economic climate, I would recommend that we would do a level service budget. And I would like to be able to send that message out to all departments, request them to present their budgets to me by January 31st, which is what I've done in years past. And that way in February, you will begin the review. So,
Make a motion to send the message of level service.
Okay, I'll
If there is
second.
any major increases, that they should be approved by the administrator before submitted to the board.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second is just an update to the board in reference to civil service. As you know, the police chief has notified the board that he will be retiring at the end of his contract in August. In October, the board approved a vendor for us to be able to do an assessment to hire a new police chief. I have reviewed the application that has been forwarded over to HRD, which is the Human Resources Department for Civil Service. They have approved the vendor. I will now work with the vendor in establishing a schedule going forward with the desire to have the assessment center and information done by March 1st. Civil Service will validate the information and rank the individuals, and then it will be forwarded to you as the appointing authority for you to make a decision when you feel most comfortable. So again, just an update to the board to let you know that we're proceeding down the process.
Ask a question. I know we're hiring from within for the sergeant, for the chief's position. If a sergeant were to get the job, we have an active sergeant list. Is this going to be a time-sensitive thing that maybe we need to go faster than not? So we, if we did have to replace a sergeant, we can go off the existing list. Or?
Yeah, I'll have to see what date the sergeant's list is, but they usually come out in October and November and last for 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know, I'll have to verify that information, but I think we're okay based on what I recall.
Great, thank you.
And being at 2:10, I would
Yep.
ask you to open the public hearing.
7:10, right?
I'm so sorry, yes.
Are we that early? Jesus,
Yikes!
that's pretty early.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. It is 7:10, so we are moving back on the agenda to the tax classification public hearing to consider the local tax property factor for the 5 property classes being residential, open space, commercial, industrial, and personal property for fiscal year 2016. So we have Mr. McCarthy here. You want to get started?
Please just take a vote to open the hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded to open the hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, we'd like, before we get into the classification hearing, the board just wants to send their condolences to Selectwoman Maloney for your loss. We heard about that, and we're real sorry to hear that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And secondly is to Selectman Marrera. I didn't have a chance to see the street naming ceremony, but congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you very much.
I don't know where it was, I heard about it, and I saw it in the paper, so.
It was well publicized.
Yeah, I know, but,
Nice looking sign.
And I-
You're busy these
I
days,
really
but, yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, very much so, thank you.
Yeah, I missed it too. I apologize for that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'll make sure I get a ticket in that road, and I'll be thinking of it every time I see the ticket.
Get a ticket on
Take
that
care of
road?
that.
I don't know, that'd be pretty
You
tough.
missed the big deal afterwards.
You have to go pretty fast, pretty quickly.
I've been known to do that once in a while, so. So we're here tonight in regards to the fiscal year 16, setting the tax rates for the town of West Bridgewater. And as we go through it, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about here. The town, as usual, we have Patriot Properties is our vendor, and they're a revaluation firm that does a number of communities in the area. They come in and do all the assessing on a mass appraisal basis, all the property values, the personal property and such for any community they work in. So we've had them here in West Bridgewater for a number of years. This year was a little bit different because the state mandates that every 3 years, every city and town has to do if you lack of a better word, a full revaluation. In the old days, that meant a lot more, but now with all the computer stuff, the IT technology, not as much, but it's still significant. Every 3 years, they do a lot more checking on the figures. We get a lot more close scrutiny to make sure that the sales and the assessments are lined up. They do it every year, the Department of Revenue, but every 3 years, it's more of an upscale job. So we had Patriot come in and do the values and such for the community, and we have received, approval from the Department of Revenue. So the board comes before you tonight to talk about setting the tax rates. If you have the booklet that most of this work was done by Principal Assessor John Donahue behind me, who always does an outstanding job for the town and for the board. You have the packet, the opening page just shows it's a fiscal year 16 classification hearing regarding tonight's meeting. The second page lets you know the purpose of the hearing, which is, mandated by every city and town. They have to go in front of their selectmen or councilmen to adopt the rates. And it's, the selectmen must adopt the rate and either as a single or a multi-split tax rate. And I'll get into that in 1 second. The next page, the top, it says the property class valuation. And it's interesting. It shows, John put this together, and the top half of the page, the top line says fiscal year 2011 through the current year 2016. And then the bottom blue line, halfway down the page, if you take a look at that, you can see that, what the real estate market's been doing, and West Bridgewater's kind of been trending along with the norm. The total value in 2011 was about $989 million, give or take. 12 and 13, you can see 975 and 965 million. So, as we know about with the real estate market, the values were trending downward. And then you can see in 14 and 15, and now the current year 16, they've started to head back up, which is good for our community. It showed the bar graph below. It just shows what we're talking about. That it breaks it down by residential, industrial, and commercial, and all three classes of property follow that same trend. Where back in 11 it was a number, they trended down it slightly, and now it's going. And I can see it. You can see it out there in the marketplace. The values are starting to appreciate, which is good. Over the years, it's the real estate market becomes a cycle where you have maximum values and they decline and go back up. On this last go through, the values back in 08, 07 started to decline. So it's been a while of a slow market, and we can see now that the values of on all classes of property have started to increase. So below that, the bar graph kind of reiterates what's on the upper half of the sheet. Turning the page, John has provided a pie chart of our community, and one thing I've been doing this a long time, probably too long. I find it very, very interesting, and it says that we got a pretty vibrant community here, and I'm saying that because with the size, the population, number of parcels, if you look at the pie chart and then the figures down below. The residential properties, singles, multis, condos, they make up about almost 68% of the community. The rest of it, commercial, industrial, personal property, makes up around 32%. And this is important and very significant because a lot of towns around here, maybe same size, geographically, population-wise, their makeup is predominantly residential. And the Department of Revenue says, unless your commercial, industrial, personal property base is around 22%, you're really advised not to classify it, have a split rate. But here in West Bridgewater, you see by the pie chart that, when I worked up the city of Newton many years ago, I think I'm looking at Newton here with that split. For our small community, that's a pretty significant split of the residential versus the commercial, industrial. So that allows us to say, okay, we can set our tax rate tonight like in other years, but we can split it up where the residential will be lower and the commercial, industrial, personal property, because of the makeup of our community, can take a little more of the burden. So that's just something good to point out. And probably, with over the years, the aggressive trying to get commercial in here, our excellent location of the Route 24 access, our industrial park, and now, we have the TIF committee. I'm going to try to work hard and bring properties in. All that stuff says is that, we got a pretty vibrant community here. The next page, we'll take a look at that, and I'm not going to try to confuse the issue. It's just something we put in there just to show you that when John does his analysis to get Department of Revenue approval, this spreadsheet is really part of their system. It's called the Gateway System, and Patriot and John filling all our figures in for assessments populates the spreadsheet. We put it in here because at the top left there by class and such, it just verifies what the pie chart on the previous page showed, that the residential's 67% and the Other three classes are 32%. And then the word levy, we want to show that's the amount of tax dollars we're going to raise in FY16 through this process tonight. If a lot of communities, the East Bridgewater and such, or Bridgewaters that don't have a split rate, if we weren't afforded that good commercial base, if we went to a single rate, it would be that 2158. So the word levy, we're raising about $22 million, $22.5 million. And if we had a weak commercial, not a weak, but a lower commercial base, we'd have to go to that single rate, so it'd be, over $21. So we put that in there just to say that this is one of the sheets that goes into the Department of Revenue. And, as we move along in this, we make it a little easily readable for the board. The next sheet, it's the blue, I guess purple and yellow. And what it is, on the blue, each color represents a class of property. And we like to concentrate, because of the makeup of the community being primarily residential, the blue colored part of the chart here, it's for single-family properties. And again, if you look at the upper left in the blue thing, it starts at 2011. And on the bottom line of the blue colored chart, it shows the average value in 11 of 287. Then you move over to the right-hand side, the far part of the right-hand side, and it's the current year we're working on, 2016. You can see, not a real lot, but it's a sign of that we're moving in the right direction. The average single-family value is $292,600. And the other classes kind of follow along where they've showed a low value in the past and they've moved up to, to where we are currently. Just to let you know, if you take a look at the upper left, the upper right, excuse me, in 2016, the bottom line in the blue part, the average value is $292,640. Last year used a split, I believe, of 135. So what we did for the bar graph here, we said the average value for 16 of $292,440 using last year's split of 135 would mean a tax rate of this year of I got it there somewhere. $18, right. And that would be an increase in the bill. It'd be a little over 3.5% increase from 5,098 to 5,267. So maybe $170 thereabout for the increase from last year to this year onto the average home. On the commercial property, in 16, this year, the average value was $884,620, and at last year's split of 135 with this year's rate, the bill would be $25,768. Last year was $24,900, so it's an increase of about $750 thereabouts. And the other ones follow suit. So we're seeing now in all classes of property a slight increase, as this chart shows, or the bar graph shows. The next page and the following couple is what we're really concerned with tonight. The selectmen are charged with making a determination of how they want to classify the properties and choose a split rate, if you will, to determine the tax rates. If you could, at the top of each, the blue, purple, and yellow, top of the sheet, it has the average assessed value for that property. For the residential, it's $292,640. The commercial, it's $884,620. In the industrial in the yellow, it's $1,152,715. So then what we do, we'll take, for example, on the residential, the average assessed home at $292,640. And if you go down like to the middle area, last year's split was 135. And at that, the rate, if you chose that, the rate would be $18. The bill would realize of $52.67. To the average assessed homeowner in the town of West Bridgewater, $5,267.52. That would realize an increase from last year of $178.15. Moving right next door, the commercial on the purple, in the middle section, the average commercial value was $884,620. If you move down to that last year, split at 135 again, and using this year's rate, the average bill on that would be $25,583. And there would be an increase of 509, I'm sorry, check that, 135, wrong line. Yep, $25,768, and an increase of $780. Moving over to the industrial classification, the average assessment in the industrial properties in town is $1,152,715. Last year's split, using the rate for that factor, the bill would be realized of $33,578, and that would be an increase of, I believe I'm reading this right, $438 over last year. So, you know, we use just that for example because I believe that's the rate that you chose last year. And just a couple of things, you know, we go through this and sometimes it's a tough decision because, you know, it's a residential community and you want to do the right thing, but, you know, you don't want to try to price the commercial guy out, you know. And the argument is, well, they can pass it on to their tenants, so, you know, and we go over that every year. It's important to see that, you know, in around that 134, 135, 136, the average increase to the residential homeowner is, you know, less than $200 for the year. You know, and yeah, any rate increase, you know, hurts. But unfortunately, and people, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and there's a misconception. Under Prop 2.5, in layman's terms, is that if values go up, the rates might come down. If the values go down, the rates come up. But because of 2.5 and the new growth that we'll talk about in a second, your tax bill, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, is always going to kind of go up. You know, it might be $50, it might be $500. But essentially what it is we take the same money we raised last year, plus 2.5% increase which are allowed, plus the growth, plus any debt exclusion or CPC surcharges, and then we raise that money. So, you know, people think, oh, you know, my value's going up, that means my taxes are going way up. Or my value's coming down, so they're coming down. You know, it's common to think like that, but it really, in the end, doesn't work too much like that. Just something else before we get into, you know, what your thoughts are on the split. It's worth mentioning that we had the town of West Bridgewater. The part of that, the levy is we had some new growth in town between the personal, residential, and commercial. We've been approved by the Department of Revenue of almost $410,000 in growth in tax money, which is good. And we can see, I can see that, you know, we have hopefully the town manager and the financial team are aggressive going after new business with the TIFs. The assessors, and, you know, I take it firsthand, is that we do a outstanding job regulating that, the overlay account. We don't have a lot of tax appeals, but we have some substantial ones, and we've done a good job in keeping them in check and avoiding going to court with those expenses. So between the new growth and us trying to, you know, keep a lid on that, on the overlay account, you know, the town's in a pretty good position. You know, going forward, I can see in just a brief second, you're talking about the real estate values. Like I said, you know, they're moving upward. And we just did a big job in Brockton for a downtown redevelopment piece. And even in Brockton, when you see houses for sale and days on market, commercial stuff being sold and leased, you can, even in the Brockton, which is, it's a little tougher there, it's the only city in Plymouth County, we can see a positive move forward. So if it's like that in Brockton, you would think the towns, and that's the case, that, you know, they're moving forward positively in their assessed values, good place to live, good infrastructure, you know, good people running the town here, so it's all good. Okay. We've said, or I said a few times in my presentation, last year the selectmen, I believe, chose the factor of 135. If that's chosen tonight, you'll see on the sheet with the three things in front of you. And then, I'm sorry, if you go to the next page, which I forgot about, it kind of shows the proposed, by each class of property. It's a lot more easily readable. The first page is for the residential properties, and it's the last 3 or 4 pages of the booklet. The first one is the residential. At the 135 split, As we talked about, this year, the average house is assessed at $292. Last year, you can see it was $285, so it's come up, a percent or two. And the tax bill would realize an increase of $178. And then the sheets follow, I don't want to sit and keep throwing numbers at you, but the sheets follow kind of the same logic for the commercial industrial. That, at that split, all properties are going to realize some increase. Hopefully, it's not going to be detrimental to them. Be glad to, and I know I threw a lot of numbers at you and stuff, and I apologize, but it's the nature of the beast here. I'd be glad, the board would be glad to, if you have any questions.
Well, I kind of looked through this myself, and I really would like to see us stay at the 135 with the $18 for the residents and the commercial at 29.13. I realize that we did very well last year with it there and, taking into consideration of the school. And we're not maxed out with the 2.5. We're not raised up to the 2.5 limit. It's about 500. So we're below that. What were we, about 1.5%?
I'm not sure, John?
$500,000 under the levy limit.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
so $500,000
So
on the
okay, yeah.
levy limit.
So
And
is that a good,
Yes.
And I think that's where I feel that we should go this year.
That's your motion, Ellen, I'll
That's
second.
my motion.
moved and seconded, any further discussion? So that 500,000 under the levy, is that a good place to be? Is that a good,
Yeah, what it says is that, with the financial aspects of the community, that you can go up to 2.5% of the previous year.
right,
So, whatever that number is, you held back $500,000, so that's $500,000 less that the people are burdened with to raise.
right, so that's a
Probably
good
because we
place,
had
okay.
the debt exclusion for the school and the CPC surcharge, which unfortunately, it's for the infrastructure, and it's money well spent, believe me, on the CPC and what we're doing with that, and of course, our new school over there, it's something that has to be done,
It's a credit to your town administrator for his financial management.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is a change from 2015 of 1.7 for the residential and 1.22 for the commercial. I'm sorry? The overall percentage.
Right, on the single family?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, on the single family, last year, the average value, last year, was $285,795,
Right.
and the bill was $5,089.37. This year, if you adopt the 135, the average assessment, which is, that's not gonna change based on what you adopt, that just really goes with the rate. The average assessment on a single family in town is $292,640, realizing a bill of $52,6752, and the sheet after that shows the increase of, $178.
right.
And that's, it's unfortunate, we say, it's kind of misleading. I disagree with, on the column there, on this white sheet with the residential, it's the increase per quarter, but unfortunately, the way it works is that any increase you get from tonight's hearing, the first two bills are estimated based on 1/4 of last year's dollars. So any increase, if you build a new porch, or what you do with the rate, or anything like that, it goes on the third and fourth quarter bill. So actually, it is per quarter, but the taxpayer really sees that increase on the third and fourth quarter.
And Madam Chairwoman, if I may just add one item.
Sure.
On page 9, which is what Chairman McCarthy was just referring to, I just want to make sure for clarification purposes for the people who are listening out there, is that at a 1.35 split, you would be looking at a 1 or just a tad over 1% increase on the rate.
Right.
Chairman McCarthy mentioned that the average tax bill would go up 3.5%, and I didn't want anyone to think out there that the taxes were raising 3.5%.
Right.
They're not.
That's
The
strictly
difference,
dollars, yes.
the
Right.
difference
$100.
is because the average home has actually increased or appreciated by 2.5%. You see that below, and that's why it's 3.5.
Right.
So the homeowner is getting the benefit of appreciation, but actually only paying 1% more year over year.
Right, on those, just to back that up, right, and I apologize, on not answering that question fully, right? The
Yeah,
rate goes
right.
up a little over 1%.
Right.
And the tax bill on the 5627 represents a 3.5%, $178 increase, about 3.5%.
Right.
And the last thing I would like to add is in reference to that $500,000, the reality is that government always gets criticized for spending every dollar that we think that we can grab. And the reality is by being $500,000 below our levy, when we put the budget together, which is the budget that you approved and sent to town meeting last year, is that we were able to hold the budget in line, and therefore we did not spend every single dollar, contrary to popular belief, that would have been available. And that's why there is only a 1% increase year over year.
Right. And that's, again, the financial team, the town administrator, that's a rarity where towns hold back. I know Brockham's done in the past, when they have these taxation, these Barbara Anderson type of groups, and they do it to hold back anything off that levy in these days of, you need every dollar you can to hold it back is outstanding.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
I want to thank you guys. John Donahue, I know you put a hell of a lot of times, and McCarthy and the whole Board of Assessors.
Yes.
You
It's all,
really pretty
John,
well.
You
Yeah,
have
and,
have
you
something
do-
for us to sign now, right?
Before you close the meeting,
Right.
I just
Yeah.
want to be precise that the Board of Assessors is advising you of an excess levy capacity of $485,963.
Okay.
And it was also
That's
good to
good.
see you reaching out to the residents to make sure that they were assessed properly. I saw some information sent out telling people, get in here and make sure we're taxing on the right property. And
Yep.
we don't have a
Right,
being
right.
taxed that's not there anymore and whatnot.
Good.
And that's,
Very
that's.
good.
It's good to see, like, for any layman just looking at it, if you, we check sales in the town, and for example, a couple houses on my street, they both sold within less than 20 days. So you can see that, if you can check nothing else, you can just check like days on market, stuff's going out there and getting picked up, and, the new apartments coming online, so the town's moving forward in a good direction.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So,
Great, thank you, gentlemen.
excuse me 1 second. Before you close the hearing, what Principal Assessor Donahue gave you is just a validation of what vote you just took. So I will just ask the board to sign it so we can then forward off to the Department of Revenue.
This evening.
I was noticing on the news, a number of towns did this a few weeks back, 2 or 3 weeks back. Is there a reason we hold off?
I think because we moved the meeting, right, wasn't it? Well, it would have been last night.
What do you mean, hold, for what, Jerry? What do you mean?
In the past, there might be a delay in receiving some certification from the Department of Revenue. In the past 2 years, we have not had our growth certified at the time that you had our meeting, so we had to
Oh.
wait.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This
Yeah.
year, everything is in order.
Yeah. And they get, in talking to them, and I go to different communities, and some of them get backed up. If there's not one eye that's dotted right, they hold them back, so, it's a good job on Patriot and Assessor Donahue keeping right on top of that stuff so it goes through correctly.
I'd like to say, though, since I know you and Mr. McCarthy get involved, we used to have a lot of taxpayers criticized, and I have not received those kind of complaints, and everything, and especially when you brought John aboard there,
Yep.
everything seemed to smooth out.
Yeah.
And,
It's really important,
I-
on some of those big tax liability stuff, on the tax appeals, where we have a law liability, that's when it really counts. And these guys come in from Boston, and, and we have all our homework lined up. We do the town, we serve a good justice there.
Okay, great.
And
Thank you,
and
gentlemen.
you
for all
represent
your-
us on the Calyx board when those cases come up.
I have in the past, that's, yeah.
I know.
If I can invoke-
We can talk about that some other time.
If I can invoke a privilege, I really do want to acknowledge that Chairman McCarthy represents the community of West Bridgewater very well in protecting the overlay account. Because of his background and his professionalism, he has saved the town of West Bridgewater hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax dollars and possibly even millions over the time of his tenure.
But that's why you get the big salary downstairs, so.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
We
you. Okay, thank you.
appreciate all your hard
All right.
work, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thanks,
coming
Dave.
down.
Thank
you.
There is a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Merry
night.
Christmas, happy holidays.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You too.
Same to you.
Administrator Gagny, back to your report, sludge.
Thank you. We move from taxes to sludge.
There we go.
Um,
Slide right in.
As you know, this has been a hot topic in town prior to me coming on board, and over the past handful of months, the Board of Selectmen's office has received many numerous complaints, along with the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission. In response, I have met with some of the local farmers. I have met with the residents. I have also then had a meeting with the Conservation Commission agent, along with the Board of Health agent as well. And one of the concerns is that even though we all know what the issue is that when a resident calls multiple departments, it may very well be that in an attempt to say the same thing, we may not be saying the same thing. So with that said, I am formulating a press release right now that all three departments will use going forward. I will have it posted on the website. But the short answer is that according to state regulation, the sludge that the farmers are using as compost is legal, but it appears that the town does have some regulatory authority that it could impose. So as part of this press release, the recommendation from the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission will be at the June town meeting is that we will pass a local bylaw that allows the farmers to still be able to use and the town to be able to regulate, and that way hopefully we're going to find a happy medium between the two. All right, but again, just an FYI to the board and for those that are listening.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. On the center of town.
Oh, wait, before
I'm
we
so
go back
sorry.
to that, we did have some correspondence, I think that Jerry and I might have received from one of the residents about this. Has that been responded to? Do you know?
I believe so. We've had quite a few, so I don't know
Well,
which
yeah,
one.
I was only copied on one of them that I can remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten
Talked to
any or
David.
not.
Well, there's been quite a few also, and I talked
Yeah.
to David and responded to some of them, so.
Oh, okay.
What I had suggested, David, is meeting with the Conservation and the Board of Health so they can come up with
Right.
one answer that covers
Right,
everybody.
which is what this is,
jurisdictions.
right, no, I get that, but I just was wondering, those people that might have reached out to us individually or sent emails in that we were copied on, I just wanted to make sure that we had responded to them as well.
The honest answer is I believe so. If I've missed one, I apologize, but we've made every attempt to make sure that we've communicated to everyone.
Okay, good.
The next issue is that in reference to the center of town, the project is actually winding down. It may be sad one day when they're no longer out there and everybody can drive through really fast and easy. All right, maybe not. In any event, as you see, the top coat of pavement has been applied. In order to minimize congestion and traffic, they're actually going to begin some night work starting tonight where they're going to line paint. They're not going to paint tomorrow. They will be back on Saturday to do some additional painting. And they're going to continue to do some work outside of normal traditional hours, weather permitting, so they can minimize traffic congestion. During the day, they will not necessarily be in the road. They will be still cutting back on the sidewalks, fixing where the pavement enters the driveways in the road, and also on the sidewalks, they'll be grading those as well. They will continue to work as long as weather permits. Their hope is that if we continue to have the weather that we're having, is that they will be substantially complete with the road traffic itself issue this fall or early winter, and then they would be back in the spring just to take care of whatever landscaping issues that are outstanding, and if there is anything on the punch list.
How about the cement wall versus the stone wall? Have you heard back from them? Are they going to,
I have not heard back. The letter was sent to Ms. Perry, who is the director of our local Mass DOT district. I have also attempted some behind-the-scenes communication with people that I believe that can assist us, but I have not unfortunately heard anything back at this point.
I think at that DOT meeting I'm going to be going for, I'm going to mention it. And, the representatives are there and see if I can get, some information for you.
In addition to that, David, another thing that I've noticed that's aesthetically very unpleasing, if you're on the green and the sidewalk that's going around on the hookah lounge side of the green, for whatever reason, some places looks like it's 7 feet wide. It looks very out of place and inappropriate. I don't understand why it would have been done the way it was done, but it almost looks like they had leftover blacktop and just kept filling in the green rather than having a consistent sidewalk there. And to be honest, it looks awful. And I
noticed
do
that.
hope that the engineers are coming out to evaluate as this process goes on to make sure that they made the right decisions, and that if anything has to be tweaked, it's being done now rather than later, because we know
Like
once the project's done and they walk away, it's gonna be in our laps to correct any mistakes, or anything we see wrong. You know, a lot of people ask why the stop line wasn't moved back so the Dunkin' Donuts drive up, well, the entrance way to that plaza wasn't done. I
Yeah,
think
that-
if these engineers are out here looking at it as the process goes along, I'm thinking they would see some of these things. The other thing is, a lot of people are questioning, you pull up to that stop, if you're coming from East Bridgewater, you
Right.
stop at that first set of lights. Now you're at the first car in line, the only light you see is the one straight up. If the stop line was back further, you'd be looking at the primary light, and the whole light should have been shifted back, but I'm not an engineer.
Is
so,
that space in between? That's what I was gonna
Yes,
ask
and,
about. If we could,
if
it's
it was
almost like
actually
it's a holding
increased-
area or something.
It is.
Like,
But
so
if it
what
was
do you,
increased,
what are you
people wouldn't
supposed to
be-
do? If that's red, you stay back here? Or if it turns, if the other light turns red, then you stop at that stop line? There's some confusion in that. I know exactly
You
what you're
can be
talking
stuck
about
in the
with
middle,
that.
but I think the problem is, the thing that really has confusion is that the lights are too close together. And the light that's in front of Dunkin' Donuts actually should have been just before their parking with their driveway, so cars can pull in out of that plaza on a
Right,
green light.
right,
Right now, they
right.
can't.
Right,
And I think
right.
when you're sitting on top of that light that's closest to East Bridgewater, your focus is on the one up there. So
Right.
that one turns
Yeah,
green,
that's very
yours is still
confusing.
red. I just hope, again, I'm not an engineer, and I think we all put faith in the 3 or 4 engineers that developed this, and it was funny driving through the other day. I said, someone had called me, complained about it while I was driving through, and my son said, "Dad, you know what? When it's all done and beautiful and things are going well, they're still gonna complain to you." Which is true, some people are gonna, but I do wanna make sure that this is done right. I put faith in them. Of course, you
But that
sometimes-
light issue, you know, I don't know what you know about the shoulder. I don't know what you're talking about on the other side with the shoulder. But that light issue, I think we really need them to get, because it could be a dangerous situation for somebody stuck in the middle or not knowing whether to go or not. I don't know. I think we need to get some answers to that.
It is designed for people to be in that middle area for a short period of time. Not a lot.
Why?
Because when cops that observe, they say usually if you're stuck in the middle, it's because you ran the light.
Oh,
Or you did it, as we call it, Excello yellow, when it turned yellow.
Excello
you went
yellow,
faster, and the next
yeah.
light was already red.
Never heard of that.
From a
Alright,
show that used
so
to be on a long time ago
do you-
called Not
do you
Necessarily
have a-
News.
you know, suggestion or?
I will have a conversation with the chief engineer that is on site. Unfortunately, I will say, when I came here and I saw that, I had a whole host of questions.
Oh, we all
And
did.
the reality
beginning.
is that the response that I referred from Mass DOT was, this is 6 years in the making, it was approved at the local level, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean we can't tweak it to the best of our abilities.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is,
Mhm.
I was surprised as well when I saw it for the first time, not obviously being here during the planning stages, and watching it saying, wow,
Wow,
we have
right.
3 lights literally within a couple of hundred yards of each other.
Right.
So I was surprised as well.
Which I think we all put our faith in the state licensed, experienced engineers to do what's best, and what they, they showed us on paper, they showed us videos of the system working. It's just
Yeah.
when you're standing there in person, on paper, it looks great. On the videos, it looked great, they show the traffic patterns. But again, it makes no sense to me that when now we encourage traffic to block that entranceway from Dunkin' Donuts. I
Right.
mean, just that plaza in general, I didn't mean to say Dunkin' Donuts, when that set of lights could have been moved back 30
Right.
feet, and that would have alleviated the whole issue with that center field being a hazard.
But I think those were questions that we asked, because I remember going to those planning board meetings, and those were questions that we asked.
Right.
But we were told that no, that it was gonna be okay in the end, so.
I'm just hoping an engineer is out here looking and seeing what was actually built, and
Okay.
I will certainly follow up and do the best that I can. The last item on the agenda is in reference to Columbia Gas. I received a letter over the past week that as we enter into the winter season, and obviously people's heating bills begin to rise, is that Columbia Gas wanted to notify that they do have a low-income program for those who are in need of assistance. So I want to make the announcement on television right now for those out there that may be listening, that need the assistance. There is assistance available. In order to be able to assist people, we have taken the program, we have posted on the website, we have posted on the town's Facebook page, we have posted it downstairs in the front hallway, and we've also posted it at the Council on Aging as well.
Okay.
This is the gas program, but we also have the oil program that's available through through a state program, but you file through the Council on Aging, correct?
That's correct.
So for
Does-
people at home. And of course, we have the food pantry available for people, and the emergency fund, and St. Anne's Church and the First Church work collaboratively on a gifts and giving program that provides food and clothing and gifts for kids during the holidays. So those are some places to reach out if you need.
And thank you, Madam Chairwoman, that's my report.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Administrator Gagby. Sorry. Anything further?
I have nothing.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to enter into an executive session, not to return to open session for purposes of conducting a strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically all department heads under the direction of the Board of Selectmen. This is a roll call vote.
Marrero, yes.
Lawrence, yes?
Maloney, yes. It's unanimous. We are in executive session. Thank you.